At this time, it is my honor to ask Mark Oxford to the podium as he introduces us to the 1953 state championship football team.
Good evening. I'm Mark Oxter, and my father was Dr. David Oxter, who in 1953, at age 25, was hired as the head football coach at Brewer High School. What was the athletic director thinking? 25. What's that? So after 20 years of coaching successfully high school and college, he spent the next 20 years on the faculty of Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania, developing a new discipline, adapted physical education for handicapped and disabled, and was a primary technical advisor for the Kennedy Foundation when they were developing something called the Special Olympics. You might have heard of that. He was thrilled when Tom and Lori Kelly chased him down in Washington, D.C. and invited him to this event because Brewer was his first love. It was his first head coaching job, and he loved being here. And in the last few months of his life, it brightened it considerably because we heard stories about Brewer that we'd never heard before. All we ever heard up until then was about Bobby Bauer. That was it. That was it. So even though he was on hospice at the time, we were going to try to get him here, but then as he declined in June, it was suggested to us maybe we could get some footage. So we have a edited version of some footage of him talking to us posthumously about this night. Now, when I was in the nursing home with him, and I told him, he was in a white t-shirt in a hospital bed, I said, Dad, the dress code for the banquet is business formal. Maybe you'd like to put on a dress shirt. He thought about it for a second and said, nah. But I think you'll find his sentiments and heartfelt memories about Brewer are as authentic as his fashion choices. So, for the 1953 Brewer High School football team, Coach Dave Oxter.
Hi guys, this is your old football coach, Dave Oxter. I coached you in 1953 when you were state champions of Maine football. I want to congratulate you for being a great team that's being inducted into the Brewer Hall of Fame. You guys really deserve it. There's this perception that coaches win games because they know how to manage the game. Well, the whole season, I never called one play. Tom Kelly was the guy who managed the game when it was being played. I was not a part of that. One other great quality that we had in our team was that of leadership. We had good captains. We had Rolly Gray and Jackie Miller. They were good captains. They were successful because they were an absolute unique bunch of guys. First of all, when you won that championship, you guys were inexperienced. Number two, the thing that was unique about you was that you were small. We had a backfield with Tom Kelly. He was a 140-pounder, and Bobby Bauer, he was skinny. He was a 145-pounder, and Jackie Miller was a 135-pound right halfback, and we had fullbacks that weren't big either. About the biggest guy we had in the line was Ira Gifford, and he was about 6'1" and 180, so we were inexperienced and we were small. But you guys had the character that put a team together that was just almost unbelievable. Most of the press was focused on Bobby Bauer. I mean, he was probably one of the greatest halfbacks ever stepped on a football field in Maine. But we had some other unique players, and one was Calvin Rowe. Now, Calvin was unique because he was probably the smartest football player, I ever coached. Calvin was a guy, he was a linebacker. He knew how to get to the ball, and those were intellectual decisions that he had to make on routes to get there. And he had that specific characteristic that made him great. One of the things I remember about Calvin is that we had that light backfield, and we didn't have a fullback that had any power that we could run up the middle. So for the Bangor game, we decided to move Calvin to the fullback spot. So Calvin became a fullback for our big game with Bangor in 3 days. We started training him on Monday, and we played the game on Thursday, and so Calvin was our fullback for that game. So, I mean, when you got a kid that can learn a position in 3 days for a big game, I mean, you got to have somebody that's pretty special. You see the kids play, and you never know how good they are until you start to coach in subsequent years. But we had one kid that was really special. He was a lineman. His name was Percy Cotton, and there's no one that could actually execute technique and play a position like he could. The Archer twins, they were the heaviest on the team. We made them tackles. They were offensive tackles. They were heavy. They were about 5'10" or 11, maybe weighed 190, but they weren't big. They were heavy. And the other thing that made our team great was that everybody who played knew the position and the duties of their and responsibilities of what they had to do, and it did it every play, every game. I mean, that makes a championship football team, and we had that quality within the team, so that was a great part of what we did. It was a great team, All of the kids of the squad, they came to the locker room, they put on their gear, they went out and they played on that practice field, and the end result of everyone practicing their best on every practice was a great team football organization, It gives you great joy to know that you've had a great life, and part of my life has been you guys being with you for 65 years and you not knowing it. So once again, congratulations for being on the Hall of Team. And as a team, you guys really deserve it. I want you to know that.
Stand up and cheer for Brewer. Cheer for a Brewer victory. Cheer for the good old witches, the orange and the black for me. Cheer for our alma mater. We're telling you she is swell. Fight, fight, fight for Brewer, the school we all love so well.
We do have some family members of some deceased players from 1953. Accepting the award for Thomas Largay is his son, Tom Largay Jr. Accepting the award for Dave Tardif is his wife, Jean Tardif. Accepting the award for Grant Dearborn is his wife, Fran Dearborn.
Accepting the award for Bobby Bauer, 2015 Brewer Athletic Hall of Fame inductee, is his wife, Melanie Bauer. And lastly, accepting the award for the head coach, Dave Oxter, is his son, Mark Oxter. Thank you.
The 57 football team, down this way, guys. For you seniors out there, you're with us, it's getting to the end, you'll be in bed in a half an hour, so I know it's Before I introduce the players of the 53 state championship team, I'd like to thank Tom Kelly for his assistance in locating the 53 and 57 team members. I would also like to acknowledge deceased players and coaches, Oxter and Coach Mahaney, as they are with us in spirit tonight. I have a short story that I would like to share with you about Coach Oxter. I first met Coach Oxter when I was 12 years old in 1954. I'm 76 now. The neighborhood boys were having a pickup football game in a field behind the apartment he was living in on State Street in Brewer. Coach Oxter came out onto the field and showed us how to get in a three-point stance, how to block, and how to place your fingers on the laces of a football to throw the football. In talking with other players on the 57 team, they also recall Coach Oxter visiting Brewer grammar schools and talking to students about playing when they got to high school. Leroy Stewart recalled Coach Oxter coming down to his Arlington Grammar School. What the heck he was doing down in Arlington, I have no idea. And he talked to some of the students about playing football when they got to high school also. As Leroy Stewart said, we knew nothing about football. When we became freshmen, we went out for football thanks to Coach Oxter. Many of the players on the 57 team credit Coach Oxter for getting them interested in football. Now, for those members on the 53 and 57 teams, we have reserved a room, a banquet room at the Coach House Restaurant for tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock for a luncheon, and hopefully we can get together and talk about old times, if we can remember them. Okay, please hold your applause until after all the players have received their awards. Thank you. Roger Archer. Our next player is his brother, Ronald Archer. Our next player is Wayne Ira Gifford. And next we have Richard Gray. And our next person, not only was he a coach on the 57 team, he was a player on the 53 team, is Jim Grindle. And next we have Gene Ham. And next we have Ralph Holyoke. And next we have Tom Kelly. And the next player is Maynard Bud McEwen. And the next player, he never wants to be called Ralph Payne's brother, is Edgar Payne. Ralph's got all the darn credit for years, for a long time, buddy, so this is payback right here. And our next player is Calvin Rowe. And this is the guy that I remember. He's the only one that played with a leather helmet with no face mask. Leather helmet right here.